And hi, I'm Doug Keck, and welcome to a special Bookmark Media Edition with our guests being Daniela Gurrieri and Fabio Carini. And they are members of Cristiana Video Productions, and we know them and welcome them because of the great work they've been doing over the years, almost 10 years, working with John Elson and his team on the wonderful films that EWTN has been able to produce over the years, going back to 2015. And people will recognize you for having both been on Father Mitch's program back in June, talking about your new movie for us on Frassati. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. But first, let's get a little background on the two of you. How did you, Daniela, how did you both get into making films for EWTN? What were you doing before we discovered you?
Yes, we are a couple. We are married, of course. We have a family, 4 children, 2 grandchildren now. And when we were very young, we had really the great grace of meeting a priest, a good priest, who helped us so much in our life. So he helped us discover our vocation, our faith, of course, and our vocation. And he connected us to the world of the missions. So we started cooperating with him and the association that he founded in Italy in order to help African people, African children. And we used to go to the Sudan, to Uganda. And it was in that moment that especially Fabio, my husband, started making videos. Why? To promote, of course, the kind of help that we were doing to make people realize what was happening in Africa. And so it was the starting point of Cristiana Video.
I really cannot add. I think that our most beautiful passage in our life are signed by meeting with priest. Because another priest really helped me to fall in love for the history of the church. For this reason, we began to make this movie about the history of the church. And then another priest, still another priest, help us to know the life of the lives of the saints, the lives of the saints. In our life, really, the meeting with priests changed our life, really.
Well, it's a powerful story, and again, it's such a Catholic story because the saints are our older brothers and sisters, and you focused on them. So first I wanted to kind of jump to where we are today and talk about To the Top, Pier Giorgio Frassati. And first we'd like to take a look at a clip so that everybody is aware of the wonderful work you did. Let's take a look at that.
Oh, Candice, what kindness.
Oh, Candice. Thank you, I need some energy.
I don't think they're candies or anything edible.
Food for the soul. I already have it.
It's a handmade gift for each of you.
But what are they made of?
With special seeds from my family's garden in Pollone. I cultivated them personally for each of you. With so much love.
And there we have it, a very popular program on EWTN since its premiere back in June. Thank you for your wonderful work.
Thank you.
What was the idea behind you producing the Frassati program? Was that something that you came forward with to John and his team, or how did that come about?
Yes, it was from John Elson, essentially, because he had seen that an actor who had played in one of our docudramas, St. Margaret of Castello, was very similar in his aspect to Giorgio Frassati, and he was a very good actor, actually. And so he, but of course, the seed of that program on Giorgio Frassati was already there because, you know, he's such a powerful figure. And so, but that was maybe what pushed the idea.
Right.
So we started studying, reading the books about Pier Giorgio, written mainly by his sister, and then many other books, his letters, of course, and it was really a great discovery. Also for us.
Right, and the family was actually very supportive of this project, right?
The family.
Pier Giorgio.
Pier Giorgio, yes, they of course they followed for a bit, and of course the family today is made of the nephews and nephews. They are very old, but they are very active in promoting the figure of Frassati, of course, and.
A lot of people, also in Italy, knew Frassati, and they helped us. A group in San Breto del Tronto is called Compagnia dei Tipiloschi, Society of Shady Characters. Yes. And they came also on the set to play a role.
Oh, really?
Yes,
very nice.
Extras, and they helped.
Yes.
Yes,
And
they
they're
were
very moved to see the actor who played the role of Pier Giorgio, Malawi Hidalgo, Franz Massetti. They recognize themselves. Very moved.
Do you find when you're working on this, because you are casting on these various projects we'll talk about, professionals, and it's a professional product. Have you found at least people who maybe are willing to work with you because they're interested in working on a project like this?
Of course, the world of actors, of acting, films, movies is a very difficult world. They are used to many different things, and not many times not so close to faith, to such contents. But when they enter, they enter in contact with these stories, which are true stories, and our powerful stories. Yes, something changes in their life. I cannot witness that they found the faith, that they converted, or what. But we have, for example, in the years we have kept the relationship with these actors who sometimes call us, oh, thank you for having, for example, the actress who played Saint Bridget of Sweden. She continues thanking us, saying, for me, meeting Saint Bridget of Sweden was something that changed my life.
Really?
Okay, to what extent I cannot say, of course.
But the seed is planted.
But the seed is there.
The seed is planted,
of course, the same with St. Francis of Xavier. Yes, we can see that it is an encounter meeting that does not leave them as they were before.
Okay. Right.
Sometimes the actors are Christian. And it's very, very good also for us to work with them. For example, Mother Cabrini, the actress, she's a catechist. She's an actress, but she also a catechist, a very person of faith, and it's very nice for us to work with them.
Of course, there's a communion.
She understands.
We understand each other, of course.
Very
but
simple.
it's good also to minister a bit to people who are far. So.
Well, let's jump back in time to 2015, which was the first production you did with us, right? All Shall Be Well, the Revelations of Blessed Julian of Norwich. Was that the first time we worked with you?
Yes.
Had you produced another project that we had acquired?
Before we had produced on our own other projects. The first was St. Francis of Rome.
Okay, I remember that. Right.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Which was a docudrama
right.
on this wonderful figure of a medieval saint of Rome, which was very, very powerful at her time. She was mother of family. She had children, but she dedicated to the poor of her town.
So you kind of came onto our radar because of, we became aware of you, but we acquired that program to run on the network.
Yeah, and we are very happy of that. Right. Helped her be known also here. And after that, we produced St. Camillus of
Right,
Ellis.
I remember that too, right, okay.
Power story as well.
Right.
So and then we started with Julian of Norwich. Why? Because in that period, I had bought a book of Pope Benedict XVI.
Yeah, before you go to, let's take a look at some scenes from Julian of Norwich just to make people aware.
Yeah.
There's still something I wanted to ask her, but I never had the time. Did the Lord reveal to her the end of her revelations?
She asked herself for over 15 years, until she finally got the answer.
This is how I was taught that our Lord's meaning was love. And I saw that God loved us before he made us, and his love has never diminished and never shall. And all his works were done in this love. And in this love our life is everlasting. We had our beginning when we were made, but the love in which he made us was in him since before time began. And in this love we have our beginning. And all this shall be seen in God without end.
And it all began there, at least with our co-productions with you. So continue explaining the background of this one.
Pope Benedict XVI had chosen for a certain period to dedicate his Wednesdays meetings to women. Women of the church, so to saints, of course, but especially medieval ones. And it was a discovery, really, because you know, also in when we go to school in Italy, for example, it's mainly atheist, and they don't introduce you in this kind of stories which are true. Only think of St. Catherine of Siena, for example. Or I studied English literature in my life. I went to the university, English literature, and I had never heard of Julian of Norwich, which was the first one to write a book, the first woman to write a book in English. So it was strange. I didn't find in literature book. Why? We know that these characters, Catholic, are of course are put aside on the side. But when I started reading the Revelations, beautiful. I was so touched. We had to make something, to produce something, and it was challenging because she was a recluse. So the movie had to be set in this cell, inside this cell. But the beautiful thing is that she had 3 windows. One window through which she received food and the things she needed. One window was outside on the street. The people could come to her to ask for advice, spiritual advice. And many came. There was a long queue outside of people wishing to speak to her. And then a window on the church, from which, of course, she could attend Mass and receive the Holy Communion.
Okay, so moving on from that one, the next project was the St. Bridget of Sweden. Again, how did that one come about?
Yes, the same. It was the same in the same book of Pope Benedict that I found St. Bridget.
I see. So it was a continuation of what you had already started to work on. Yes, a continuation.
Really, I would have made the whole series, let's say, but we had to choose. And St. Bridget was. I found interesting this fact of St. Bridget from a Lutheran country. From northern Italy, Lutheran, and so it was my interest to enter that world and to show a figure of saint, Catholic saint, which came from that.
Let's take a look at a clip from that as well. In fact, it was produced in a couple of different formats, but here's a clip.
Compassion on me.
Okay, very good. St. Bridget of Sweden, another fine production, 2017 on EWTN. Let's move to the first one that was kind of a big splash in some ways, which was Mother Cabrini, right?
Oh, I could talk hours about that, but only to say that how the project was born. I was just on the internet, just looking for something. I don't remember what. But then the photo of Mother Cabrini came on the screen, And this photo where she was very young but very proud there as a nun, and looking very straightforward in the camera,
Sure.
And I liked so much the way she was. I sensed that she had a great soul and a great character, and it was
Right.
so. So when I started to read something very simple on the internet, I read that she had done so many. She had founded the schools, she had founded hospitals, she had founded in Buenos Aires, in New York, in
Yeah, we
in
only
Chicago,
think of the United
in,
States a lot of times on our
yes.
side. So.
And from a small town in Italy. Can you imagine? From a small town in Italy at the end of the 19th century,
Right.
which, and I asked myself, where is she in our history books? No mention
Right.
of such a great woman. And I think it is really...
Right. Let's take a look at a scene from Mother Cabrini.
You're hard-headed. Maybe I wasn't clear enough. You cannot start a mission without the necessary funds. You need a long-term project.
But you know better than I that our most powerful weapon is not money, but the limitless trust in the heart of Jesus.
Yes, I was, and am.
Again, another fine work on Mother Cabrini. Let me ask you, you got support also, we got from the actual order itself,
Yes,
right?
yes,
To support the production,
very
right?
supportive.
Right.
So we are very grateful also to the sisters of the Sacred Heart,
Right.
who really understood the great opportunity also of your involvement in the project. So.
One of the great things with that too, I think you were able to utilize sets of New York, right? From an older, actually American movie, I guess, which had been shot in Italy, where they had created.
Yes.
Was it from the Gangs of New York or some program like that, right? Movie like that. So that's why the sets look so good.
Yes, it was exciting. Oh, it was a very long work because it lasted many months.
Right.
Yeah, we had to cut the shooting period in two. So we had to cut so it lasted many months. And we went to Sicily, down to Sicily, to find some of these locations in which Liberty style houses and buildings are.
Okay.
So we used those in Sicily, and then Rome, and also all around Rome. So.
Now let's talk about, a lot of these productions are at least in Europe, if not in Italy, so there's a benefit because you can kind of go out the door and find these locales. How did you end up dealing with St. Francis Xavier in Japan?
It was a proposal from EWTN, from John again, because the Pope was going to visit Japan, and we had, actually the link comes from Mother Cabrini. It is as if Mother Cabrini had introduced us to this wonderful figure of St. Francis Xavier, because she found her vocation thanks to St. Francis Xavier, reading the stories about him when she was a child. This was done by his father. So the importance of a family who teaches the children this kind of stories. And she chose to add Saverio to her name when she became a nun, St. Francis Xavier. And in Italian is even more touching, because Saverio is a name for a male, and she kept the same name Saverio and didn't change it in Saveria because she wanted to honor Saverio fully.
Right.
So she put Saverio to her name.
Right. So did you shoot on location at all in Japan?
Of course.
What was that like?
Wonderful. Wonderful, because
But it was also incredible to discover the history of the church in Japan. History of centuries of martyrdom. Terrible, terrible. Very touching.
Right. About what those people were willing to die
to
for,
maintain the faith.
to be martyred for.
Yes.
Yeah. Moving ahead, I wanted to move because I want to make sure we touch on everything. A very popular one, maybe a smaller production in the sense of timing and things, but was the one on I Am With You on Carlo Acutis. He's really taken off in popularity. Let's take a look at the program you guys produced first.
This exhibition on the Eucharistic miracles was devised by a child, Carlo Acutis, born in London, brought up in Milan, buried in Assisi.
And you can see even from that clip why he's such a powerful representative for younger people today, especially a connection to computers and things, and then the Eucharist itself.
Yes, in fact, it was also for us a great discovery. This very young boy who had this great faith, but he liked Saint Francis of Assisi very much. So his saint of reference was Saint Francis of Assisi, and he, from this figure of reference, he took also his own faith, the kind of faith he had, because he really had a heart for the dedication for the poor, but through the love for the Eucharist. Right. The love of the Eucharist was, and in fact, he made the exhibition on the miracles. Eucharistic miracles, which is really powerful if you think that he was only a boy. Right. And when we interviewed his helper, the Indian helper of the house, he said that when he went to clean the room of Carlo was always on the computer to try to put together all the information, to study also how the internet worked, because at that time still the internet was not very
as user friendly and as ubiquitous and available.
So he had to study how to make programmation. I don't know, informatics.
Create a website and create material and how it could be shared and put together. Right. And he connected to something. This one I wanted to talk about because we had a program years ago on St. Margaret of Castello, and it was a little film, and the first time you hear it, it's such an interesting, and we asked you guys to basically do a production on this, and it was kind of I don't want to say last minute, but what it was, and you came back with such a fabulous, I want to show the recreations you did with Margaret Castello are really heartrending. Let's take a look at that.
Hello.
Mother.
Everything is fine, my dear.
There, you saw it for yourself, and if you haven't seen that, you have to watch that. I think one of the things with St. Margaret, again, is you really see, and you captured it, that idea of the strength in faith of people whose bodies let them down, but whose faith continues on. We saw that with Mother Angelica in a lot of ways here, with her sufferings and stuff like that. And when you did that, how did you go about capturing that?
It was really a miracle because in a very short time we had to put up everything, the crew, the cast, and what about the main actress? Right. But we had worked with this actress for Mother Cabrini. She was the Sister Bernardina, who was always together with Mother Cabrini, and we knew she was a great actress. But what we didn't know, and this we discovered when we met her, that she had just played a blind girl, and she had been trained by people. She had stayed with the blind people. for a period of time to train herself to play that role.
Right.
So we were, we said, this is a miracle. So she was perfect.
Yes, right. It was totally believable.
Yes.
Her performance
absolutely.
was totally believable.
She was very intense, very good, very.
So let's in the closing minutes. We've got about 2 minutes or so. So what's next?
So. We have so many ideas. We have been sharing so many things. So we hope to be able to make a movie actually on Thomas of Celano, who is the first biographer of Saint Francis of Assisi and also of St. Clare. And really, it would be worthwhile to and we have received the idea of the project from the town of Celano in Italy, and we are trying to move forward so that the project, the script is already there, but we hope to be able to produce to.
Can I add? Now we are talking now about our history as a Cristiana video, and I think that we can thanks God to have met you at EWTN, because with you we could be grown in these years, and we have met in you this live testify the faith in the mass media as a mission. And you are unique. Thank you very much.
Well, that's Mother Angelica. That's the mission we're all following. And but it's great because we've been able to meet talented people like yourselves. We always believe they're out there, and we need to have a platform for people to be able to use their skill set for the beauty of God, as Mother always wanted. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
we'll
you
look for the
very
years
much.
ahead. It's exciting. Daniela Gurrieri and Fabio Carini, and EWTN's Bookmark Media Special on Cristiana Video Productions. And you can check out the DVDs, buy them, check out the downloads available through catalog. Also, many of them are airing on the network all the time. And these are wonderful, wonderful films for your whole family. Everybody wants to have good programming that's educational, teaches about the faith, but are also highly entertaining and well-produced. So we're really proud of their teaming up with us, and we look for a great future, and we hope to see you next time right here on Bookmark. Thanks.